Welcome back, everybody. This is Airwaves, and we have a very special guest with us here, Mr. Jeff Allen from the World.
World's Monument Fund. You are the program director, correct?
That's correct. World Monuments Fund is a nonprofit based in New York with affiliates around the world, and I am a program director implementing the projects here in Iraq.
We are here to talk about the Babylon project
And the Ishtar Gate.
yes.
And we are very pleased to have you. Thank you for
Very,
coming.
very
Thank you for joining
Yes.
us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So, to start off, what is the main goal of the Babylon project for restoring the Ishtar Gate and the Ninmakh Temple?
Well, you have to look at these two projects as coming out of something else. So the initial start of the project, the Future of Babylon project, was in 2009. And this was through the petition of former Antiquities head Donnie George to raise funding to support this. And the idea was to take funding to create a management plan. Now, if you want a World Heritage or a World Heritage Site nomination from UNESCO, you must have a management plan. How are you going to manage a site? So the first project we did was a collaboration with the Iraq State Board of Antiquities and Heritage to create a management plan. The management plan is then the foundation for getting a World Heritage Site nomination, which Babylon received in 2019. Now, out of that were a series of priorities that the Iraqi Antiquities Department saw. And remember, this is us helping the Iraqi State Board of Antiquities and Heritage manage its site. It's not us managing it.
Gotcha.
And they pulled out 5 different projects.
Yes.
One was Ishtar Gate, and one was Nimach Temple.
All right.
And each was selected by our collaboration with the Iraqi State Board of Antiquities and Heritage as demonstrating certain concepts and principles and opportunities to build local capacity to solve not just the issue of these 2 sites, but sites all around Babylon and all around Iraq.
So this is just the start.
Correct. The idea is to create that kind of wave effect where you impact by demonstration, by example. People bond, as you know, in this region, people can be very cynical.
Yeah, of course.
You need to give them seeing is believing.
Yeah.
So giving these kind of projects is about allowing the Iraqi Antiquities Department, as well as the general public, to see how to deal with their historic monuments.
All right.
Okay?
Definitely.
So when you mentioned the management plan, does this include visitors' access? Like if people wanted to go and visit Ishtar's Gate, can you elaborate a bit more on what you mean by a management
So
plan?
I'll give you a quick example if I can talk about Ishtar Gate and Nimmakh, why they're different.
Yeah.
But why they're the same. First of all, the overarching way we get funding, because people don't give you money just to fix a monument anymore.
True.
You cannot say, fix a monument before and after picture. Now what's involved is community, it's about social development, it's about sustainability.
Tourism.
So the idea, tourism, that's an important part of it. So when we took on these 2 projects, the overarching idea was that these would stitch into the management plan's concept of developing cultural tourism to create an economic moneymaker in South Central Iraq. So each one was taken with an overarching concept: how do you adaptively reuse monuments today to bring new meaning to people so that they care about them, but also part of that caring is how to make money.
Yeah.
Okay, you cannot deny that. But how do you make money connected to heritage or built heritage in a sustainable way?
Yeah.
And that's what our game is. That's the overarching. At the same time, if I go and break those 2 monuments down, Ishtar Gate is about the conservation of original historic fabric, which there's still a lot there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And contrary to a lot of people's beliefs in Iraq, Ishtar Gate is still here.
Wow.
It never left.
Yeah.
Okay? And taking that historic fabric, better conserving it, making it more durable to last for future generations, and presenting it in a new way. Iraq is going to get a lot of tourists.
I
in the
believe
future.
so. Yeah.
So
Very, very
we
important.
need to make the way people experience the monument complementary, so it doesn't compromise the monument, but also it has to showcase the monument. That's the Ishtar Gate project.
Wow.
Nimach Temple
Yeah.
is an earth and architecture monument that was rebuilt in the 1960s, and that's about reconnecting Iraq with its past. the whole idea of mud brick architecture comes out of two places in the world. So my home is in Egypt.
Yeah.
That's one place, and the other is Iraq. So the very first
Two civilizations.
structural buildings in the world were built out of mud brick, and they came out of Egypt and Iraq.
Wow.
Make sense?
It's amazing.
Revive the traditions, because it's very appropriate in today's age of climate change and
It is.
things like that to rediscover these historic
True, true.
kinds of art.
That's
Art. It's an art form to be able to build a mud brick building.
quite
Yes.
much so. That's really
Yes,
interesting.
and speaking of the earthen-built Ninmakh Temple, what are the challenges that you faced when you were trying to restore it, and how did you overcome
Well, I'll
them?
give you an example. As difficult as it is today to get people to recognize the value of earthen architecture. A lot of people say it's a kind of backwards construction, but we're now finding that it's not, right? And there was a guy named Hassan Fatih in Egypt
Yeah.
in the 1930s and 40s. And Hassan Fatih looked at the traditional architecture of Egypt and Iraq and other places and tried to get people to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
It was an appropriate technology that solves problems in hot weather, okay?
Yeah.
And because there was a Hassan Fatih in Egypt, there is a certain understanding within the educated people of Egypt who are architects that have bonded to the traditions of earthen architecture. Now, in Iraq, that disappeared.
That doesn't exist.
So there wasn't any. So who do you think works with me in Iraq besides Iraqis?
Oh.
Egyptians.
Egyptians.
So there are two Egyptian architects who work at Nimach Temple with an Italian, and the Italian lady specializes in earthen mud brick.
That's amazing.
And they are there to give Iraqis a sense of rediscovering their traditions. Rediscover the traditions as a solution for preserving historic architecture, which has often been compromised as people rush to put concrete and cement on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, in the future, if you can start to affect university students about how they think of the building material, you may see in the years ahead, like we're seeing a little of this in Egypt, where you have young architects building out of mud brick now.
Yeah.
We are seeing that,
Okay?
yes.
So that's going to play a role. So one of the things we've just got going is we're going to partner with Nahrain University on
Oh,
a
that's
series of
awesome.
programs to bring Nahrain University students and connect them to Nimach Temple. Nimach
That is
Temple
amazing.
is a classroom, and it's a classroom that's meant to change mentalities. Okay?
Wow.
Well, you
That's
partially
awesome.
answered my next question, which is, I mean, how does the restoration process enhance or work on sustainability? I think a part of it is using the mud bricks that you mentioned, or are there other
Right.
factors?
So, Mohammed, the idea is you have to preserve the traditions, and you're only going to do that by investing in people. So we came to Babylon and realized that there were no people who were conservation specialists. There's not a university that teaches conservation.
Yeah.
Okay, I studied at the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. That has a master's degree, and some schools PhDs in conservation of building heritage. Doesn't exist here. So we, in the short term, until universities catch on, remember I mentioned Nahrain University partnership, that's kind of trying to get into universities to start awakening this idea. We've built our own staff. So we have a group of guys, they're conservation technicians, there's 10 that have worked with me and others for 15 years.
Wow.
And if you come to the site, they're at Nimach Temple.
Yeah.
And they're learning the craft. And what we hope is that when we leave, because we will leave eventually, we can leave the Iraq State Board of Antiquities and Heritage with a group of people who understand this earthen architecture
You
Who
have-
can keep on going.
and keep going after we leave. So we can't change the entire education system of Iraq.
True.
We can try to start it in a couple ways. One is to build some local capacity. These are all local village guys that we work with. And then start to get to the universities.
and change
and
the
connect.
culture.
Yeah, so we have this new funding.
Slowly but surely.
That's going to support. So it's a European Union grant that's going to support the development of young skills. Now, keep in mind, when you do a project in this size, you need to bring in many donors. So we may have the U.S. Embassy that's helping us, but we also have a lot of different other partners that come in and take on and tackle certain components of projects.
And speaking of that, I'm glad you mentioned it. I love that we're going in in sequence. Who are your key partners in the Babylon project, and how do they contribute to the restoration efforts?
So the main partner is the Iraq State Board of Antiquities and Heritage. This has been since the very beginning, and in the site management plan, there was myself and representing World Monuments Fund with a small group of people that worked with me, engaging with a committee of people that were put there by the Iraq State Board of Antiquities and Heritage. And by the way, a couple of them are going to come and meet me shortly for
That's
coffee
awesome.
outside. And that engagement is how we transfer knowledge and awaken people's ideas. The whole process of how we did that was through provocation. People tend to be hesitant about saying about things they may not know a lot about. But if you provoke them to think, they'll give your opinion. And everybody in Iraq has got an opinion. Okay?
That's very true.
And it's a strong opinion. and so you're able to do certain things which get them to get engaged with you so they take ownership of process. And that's how we create sustainability. We bring those opportunities. My coworker Amar just came back from a tour around the United States, and he was visiting museums and spaces to understand. It rolls into benefiting my project because I've got someone who's a stronger personality. There's all these different ways that we can build that sustainability towards passing a legacy that's not just about here's a monument restored, but the people who can do it.
And that kind of brings me to my next question. So does WMD has any plans to keep the sites in a good functional state after the completion of the project?
Sure. So I've just explained this by example. We have a conversation. I had a conversation yesterday with someone from the Iraqi parliament who represents Babel province. And he is a young guy who wants to make a lot of changes and make things happen. So he's talking about hotels, restaurants, cafes, and all this. And we're having this conversation, and he sees a bit of resistance from some people running the site because what he's saying is some of it's a bit too far, but some of it's not. So he's talking about there's going to be money coming in, how do we improve infrastructure, that kind of thing. And one of the things we say to everybody is you have a World Heritage Site nomination. That application was done by Iraqis based on a site management plan that we helped them put together.
That's amazing.
And we say, just refer to the management plan. Whatever is in there, you're good to go. But if you start doing 30, 40-story hotels on the site, all you have to look at the management plan, it's not there.
Oh, I
so
see.
Stay away from that.
So the management plan basically states what's going to happen or what should happen in the site for it to remain as a heritage site, according to.
And so in order to get that UNESCO nomination, you need to produce that so they can see what your thinking is.
Oh, I see.
If you don't stray away from that, then you're fine. If you want to go somewhere else with it, then you need to check with them. Now, it's a site that's under Iraqi authority, but if the recommendations from UNESCO is all about whether you want to keep that status. So why do things to risk that status?
I have a question. Maybe I'm drifting away from the questions, but what are the benefits of being a heritage site that is identified by UNESCO?
Well, that's very questionable because there's not really any data that really tells you whether those gold coins fall from heaven that some people think is going to happen, right? But for some sites, for instance, such as Babylon, I could say the same about the Giza pyramids in Egypt. People are going to come to see them anyway. Okay? True. Nobody, I think, is going to say, oh, I'm going to Iraq and should I go to Babylon? They're obviously going to go to Babylon. Okay? It's an automatic. So it doesn't really help Babylon as far as pulling tourism numbers. What it does is it gives a guideline for government here to understand what they can do and what they can't do. It's just as I was saying. So in this particular case, it could create a better management growth or interaction of the site.
It's like a roadmap.
Yeah, it's a roadmap. And you want to be able to give people guidance about what they can do, what they can't do. And that's really what the World Heritage Site nomination is strongest for. It's not going to create a big change in Babylon. Some smaller sites it might, but not Babylon. It's Babylon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already known.
Yeah, people are going to go. So it does give, but that, because it's so popular, there's a lot of pressure on it. So that's why this management plan idea within the World Heritage Site nomination is so important.
Yeah. I see.
Definitely. Oh, thank you. That was very, very informative. I like the question, the addition. I like that, Mohammed. Thank you. And so lastly, how do you intend to share experiences from the Babylon project to inspire similar initiatives worldwide?
Well, every project that I've worked on in every country is a bit different, right? So you have to take that and understand it. And sometimes I come in and I'm very green. I know nothing. Okay? And other ones I have a little bit better
Background.
You know, living in Egypt for 25 years perhaps
Wow.
gave me my coworker Terry living in Aleppo for 30 years. It gives us a little bit better. And we have my Iraqi partners. Some places you're not. Some places you have to learn. You may spend 2 years just trying to figure that out, right? I think the idea of the Future of Babylon project is to show what can happen in a difficult place and climate. If you look at
like
the
that.
history
Yeah.
of Iraq, you know better than me, and so do your parents and your families, how difficult that journey has been.
Very
It has
true.
been,
And
yes.
it has created a very interesting, often complicated and frustrating dynamic that you must deal with to do a project.
True.
And the reality is, if you can do something like what we've done at Ishtar Gate with new retaining walls that give people a chance to witness and experience the site, to host cultural and arts activities, to allow the monument to be more durable and to breathe and not be infected with too much moisture, you're saying a lot about how you can take care of monuments not just here but in other countries.
Another country.
In a very difficult environment to do it.
Yeah. I
Makes
love the way you
sense?
phrased it. Yeah.
Yes.
Makes
As
perfect
if you,
Very,
can,
very
if you can do it at Ishtar Gate, you can do
You
it
can do it
most
anywhere.
You can do it anywhere.
That's
Be
very true.
truthful.
That's very
not
true.
about the way I see it.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. Well, we appreciate you coming up here with us and talking about the Babylon project.
And we appreciate
Yes.
the efforts you have done so far on the Babylon project and restoring the gate and the temple. So thank you for that, and thank you for
You're
joining
welcome.
us today.
Definitely. And there is one last tradition.
Yeah.
So all of our guests have to choose a song. So DJ Karar can play it for them. So
Ooh.
what is your favorite song? What would you like to listen to?
Oh, Lordy, that was a quickie, huh? The Smiths. How soon is
Wow.
now?
How Soon Is Now, The Smiths. Very, very
Okay.
nice. Very nice
Yeah.
choice.
A bit of a heavy for some people, but Johnny Marr's guitar work is
Yes,
astounding.
impeccable.
It's astounding, yeah.
And when I
Yes.
first heard that song, I was in a nightclub somewhere, and I was like, whoa. All right? But take a listen to that.
Definitely.
If you're ready for it. If you want a whole group of them, I can give you a whole list of songs, but that one particularly popped out at me.
We appreciate that. And like we said, we loved having you. And hopefully we wish you the best and this project the best. And we can't wait to see it. I personally can't wait
I
to see
really
it.
hope all of you come.
Me too.
I think it's a game changer in many ways, and we're challenging some people's ideas about
Definitely.
preservation, but we're also following international standards. And that's why we're
That is-
partnering with the Iraqi State Board of Antiquities and Heritage.
The
They
whole idea
expect
is
us
so
to do that,
exciting.
and so do our donors at the U.S. Embassy and other places. They expect us to create an opportunity of positive change.
That's
That is
great.
amazing. Well, thank you again. And it's been lovely having you.
Thank you,
so
thank
much.
you,
Thank you.
thank you for your time.